Matt, welcome.
Oh, should we go in, Ollie? I thought you were testing.
Fantastic to have you here, and I've been waiting for this moment actually. One of the reasons why I started the channel, of course, is to talk to car owners, why they have their cars and why this passion. And I think Hugh represents the whole lot of this, right? Because you love this car, you wrote a book about it, you kind of passionate about this in every single way, you know this in every single detail. So
You're saying I'm a nerd, aren't you? That's what you're saying.
yeah. Technically, I'm saying you're a nerd, but let's not take it that way. But before we start today, tell me a little bit about your passion, your love, why cars, why you started all this.
I think, like all of us, it's an affliction, isn't it? We're born with cars. You know, we're born.
You think so?
We're born that way. It's always going to happen. And then you have different brands that you associate with, I think, over the time. But for me, Saab from about the age of 13 was always a big thing.
Why Saab?
It was the 80s, and everything was about body kits and excess.
Yeah.
And supercars, hard to relate to them. Didn't see them. Great on posters, but you never saw them on the road. You didn't know anyone who had one.
Yeah.
But your dad had a saloon car. But above that was the Halo model, the sports model. And that had the front spoilers, rear spoilers, bigger wheels, better trim. And you could relate to it because your dad had the one below. And it was essentially the same car. It might have been a bit quicker, it looked nicer. But you always wished you'd have that top of the range one, but you always had the one below or two below. Instantly relatable. And all they've done really is put a couple of spoilers on, bigger wheels, bit of trim, maybe a slightly better engine.
You showed me probably a year ago, maybe more, you in a magazine.
Oh yeah.
You're a famous car tuner or you kind of worked in the UK scene in that time?
Yeah, I mean...
Tell me a little bit about that, because I think...
Well, Saabs aren't cool when you're 18.
No.
Are they? Let's be honest, you've got to be quite old to have a Saab.
Yeah.
So, of course, you have the hot hatchbacks and you have all that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, that was the max power era, which I was heavily involved with. Most of the journalists were friends of mine. So they were heavily modified cars, you know, engine swaps, that sort of stuff. So it was an exciting time, very much a car culture at the time. The max power area was something to be really excited to be involved in, you know. So then I grew up and had more sensible cars. And then a hill climb for a couple of years, which was Renault Sport Clios, which were good fun. Used to then rebuilding them all the time because you tend to have the odd off and have to rebuild them. Then I retired from that because it was too expensive. And then I had a big hole missing, no car, nothing to work on. And I thought, I'm old enough now to have a classic. And there was only one classic it was going to be, and that was the 900 T16S, which takes me back to when I was a teenager.
It's one of those cars. We've been debating and talking about this car for ages, right? Every time you come here, everyone kind of asks this and that and that, because it's quirky, it's different, it has amazing solutions. We will talk about that. And it's a Saab.
Well, it's not.
It's something that people don't really kind of imagine as a cool car.
I think it's the Saab, isn't it? I think if you had to imagine the Saab, you'd imagine the 900 as being the most popular one, the one that put them on the map, I think. It's not an attractive car, but it's a very...
I think it is.
Do you think?
I think it is.
I think it's charismatic.
Charismatic is a good term,
and it's individual.
Yeah.
And I think it's aging well. I think that's something I would like to be as well, charismatic and individual and aging well.
Tell me a little bit about this car. When did you get it?
2017, not looking like this. A rolling restoration, so every winter I did more on it and then used it through the summer. They're hard to find the right spec. So you have to basically take what's out there and then just make it better. They do last well. They're made very, very well, but you can't stop rust. But that was mainly through lockdown, through COVID. I had money, and I just took it apart and rebuilt it.
Because I don't know how you keep it so clean. I mean, it's raining again. No, not raining. Was it snowing? Cold, salt everywhere. The roads are crap.
It's not normally out this time of year. This
And
is just
how
for
do
you.
you keep it like this?
I pick and choose when I use it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So clean. So what's the most unique feature of this car that when you saw it, you said, oh, this is what kind of hit me?
It's all engineering based.
Is the engineering?
Engineering on it. It's a combination of Saab not having much money
Yeah.
and having a very long lifespan on the car, 14 years. So they continuously change stuff, but the look of the car only changed once. This is a facelift one. The early cars were very different to this, different front end, different bumpers. But it's mainly about the engineering and its uniqueness in that front, really.
Yeah.
Nothing about this car is the same as any other car. Like I said, because they didn't have much money, and I imagine not a lot of daylight through the winter either, probably doesn't help. But it's a very weird car.
It is. Many of the solutions are different. Let's put it that way. So I think the most unique feature of this car, or one of the most interesting things, is the way you pop the bonnet. It's just kind of,
It couldn't hinge from the back here because of the curved windscreen, so it has to open forward.
all right.
And because of the length of the hood, if it just rotated here, you wouldn't have a lot of access. So it has to come forward before it hinges back.
How cool is that? It's just crazy, isn't it? The way it looks, it's just like, the way it moves, it's just like,
But this is when the weirdness starts, because it's front wheel drive, but the engine's that way, which is not that unusual,
yeah.
but it's backwards. So the belts are at the back, clutches at the front.
Wow. So you have to change the belt. How that works.
So you can get down there quite okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Easy?
And the clutch is easy because it's at the front. And the engine sits on top of the gearbox, and the engine's tilted at 45 degrees because it'd be too high otherwise. The drive between the engine and the box is by a chain.
Oh.
So again, very weird. And they wouldn't have known it at the time because turbocharging wasn't part of their plans when the car was designed, but you end up with almost two equal length front drive shafts because of the configuration,
All
which
right.
causes limits torque steer. Because not a normal front wheel drive car, the engine would be around that way,
Yes. Yes.
and you'd have a short drive shaft and a long drive shaft.
Yes.
That causes the problems. So yeah, they wouldn't have known it at the time. It's more of an accident, but it gives it a very good turbocharge.
Yeah, good accident.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the curvature, as you said, is
very slim A pillars, very good visibility.
very, very. It's a car. Saab is the history and the kind of the heritage is about aeronautical kind of airplane
They
design.
played on it a lot, but yeah.
Not that deep, or the roots are not really as deep
I think marketing liked it more than anything else.
Okay.
It was a good thing to use marketing, especially in America, who lapped it up.
Okay,
But
yeah, I mean these cars are designed for very kind of cold weather, and some of the solutions would reflect that
Yeah.
straight away. What do you think is the most kind of in the whole design of this car? What gives that first impression that is
All the weight is over the front axle, so for traction.
yeah
So even with 5 adults in it and a full boot load, you'll only at that point reach 50-50 weight distribution. It takes that much to get to that
Okay.
point. It's all on the front axle. Doesn't do much, I suppose, for driving dynamics.
it's very
but-
front
Yeah,
it's very
yeah,
towards the
yeah.
front, yeah.
So that's the first thing, it's designed for traction. And the rest of it is much more driver focused. So it's keeping you dry and warm and making sure you can operate the controls with thick gloves on.
Yeah.
I've heard plenty of stories about cars being towed out from ditches by the rope attached around the door handle.
Really?
Because full strengthened doors, first car I think to have side impact protection.
Talking about the door, one of the features that I think is absolutely unique, no, kind of, unless you have a supercar or something like that, the side seals.
No sills.
No seals, actually.
Yeah. So again, you don't get snow on you when you get in and out. So you can get in really easily and keep yourself free from snow.
It's almost scary, isn't it? You look, there's nothing there. It's like, wow. So in my opinion, as a car designer, some of the solutions of this car and its proportions and the way it looks are so like, I would never do it. I would never design it. But because it's like that, it's so cool. I mean, some of, I was looking from this angle here, and this is a completely negative surface, kind of the way it's like completely like a sliced out, and then you have this nice kind of spoiler in the back. The way the proportions of the car are completely different. It's not something that you're used to see, or
No. But it's a very long car, isn't it?
It's yeah. As you mentioned before, the kind of the hock stick and the way it kind of wraps around the seat peeler. It's almost all the lines negative. You would expect to be kind of some sort of tension on the opposite direction. As a car designer, you'd accelerate like that and put this tension mainly in this area or here in the front. But you look, some of the lines are kind of shooting up like negative. It's so unique. The 3-spoke wheels, which is signature, right?
Yeah.
You think they started that? Who started that?
There's an argument over it. The guy who designed the body kit, who designed the wheels, he claims he was first. Range Rover claim they were first.
All
But
right.
it's very close.
Okay.
Very close.
Hard to say. But absolutely one of the very
It's a very
first.
slab-sided car. It needed a slab wheel. Nothing else really works.
Yeah.
Very few cars can make 3 spokes work anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't look right. But for this, it's perfect. I think it's part of this quirkiness,
Yeah.
kind of the way it looks. The body kit makes it look kind
The body kit changes the look of
of
the
quite
car.
a lot. I've seen few of them without. It looks more kind of sporty, and I think it holds the volume better as well.
Yeah.
As you see the cabin
It
sitting
fixes a lot
on.
of aesthetic issues. that
Yes,
the
yes,
original
because
car had.
you have this horizontal line coming from the front bumper, wrapping around the car, and it kind of sits nicely on its wheels.
The standard car, when you're without the body kit, there's like almost a boat-like hold.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't
it
really
looks-
see where the bottom of the car is, so it
Exactly.
looks higher off the ground than it is.
Yeah, yeah,
So this makes the car look faster standing still because it looks more anchored to the floor.
yeah, yeah. Again, even this line, you can see it. It's a negative line. You would expect this to be kind of a positive acceleration, so it's slightly different. A lot of discussions about this.
Yeah,
I think it's a very cool
people seem to
feature.
be interested about it.
I'm
Are you?
interested about
Okay.
that. I think it's quite interesting.
It's
Tell
a-
me a little bit about that.
It's an electric sliding sunroof, standard on these cars, but it opens totally silently because it's got some cables that run down the roof, down into the boot, and in the boot there's a little electric motor to do it.
Again, another very different solution.
Yeah, so they haven't tried to put it in the headlining, it's just in the boot, which means it's totally silent. People seem to be impressed by that.
I'm impressed by that. I think it's really cool. Another thing I really like is the way the spoiler sits in the boot, and it kind of wraps around nicely.
That's
as
an
well.
option spoiler, it doesn't come with that, it comes with a much smaller one. But it's the same shape, just bigger.
Very different rear end as well. You look at it, it's something. The way it's designed, it's very, very different. Bit Porsche, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, the standard one's a lot smaller than that,
But I like it. I really like it. Unique as
including
well.
the drain holes to keep the water out.
You don't have a pirate's
Bubble.
bath. Yeah. Very subtle as well. And very honest.
Yeah, I haven't
think
tried
this
to try
car,
it. No.
one of the most important things about this car, it's honest in every single detail.
I think they're utilitarian, these cars. They're designed to be used.
You think
Yeah.
that
There isn't really a low mileage one of these out there. 100,000 miles is a low mileage car because
Oh, really?
they're very utilitarian. You buy them to use them because they can be used all year round.
I love it. I love it. Even the rear glass has its own kind of curvature towards the corners. It comes nice and flat, and then it accelerates in the corners, which is a great solution. You don't see many of these nowadays. Kind of, you would have a flat cut there, and then this will be plastic or something like that. Not an unusual solution. Let's talk a little bit about the interior. Let's have a look. What do you think is the key signature?
You sit very upright, almost like an SUV. You're not laid back or anything. There's a lot of headroom, so you can sit upright. Ergonomically, perfect. That's where the aerospace side comes into it.
Okay.
Everything's where you need it to be.
It's so cool.
And the major buttons
Yeah, it's
are
all there.
yeah,
Right?
it's all there. And the buttons are designed to be used when you're wearing heavy, very thick gloves because it's cold. So everything's nice and a big size, so you can click on them and feel them.
And it's big inside.
It's narrow. It's quite
Yeah,
long, but it is narrow. You get very, if you do a long road trip with a mate, you get very cosy with him after a while.
Unique feature.
Yeah.
Wow. Rear seats are heated as well?
No, just the fronts.
Just the front ones. You told me a story years ago saying that, not years ago, maybe a year ago, talking about how they tested the heating in this car.
That was more in the 9.3.
Oh,
But
right.
it shows their attention to detail. They spent money in my opinion, in all the wrong places. They set a target for the 9.3 that had to be driven from Trollhättan in Sweden down to the south of Italy, set at 21 degrees, and it should never alter on automatic by about half a degree all the way down. And to achieve that, they put more interior temperature sensors into the 9.3 at the time than a Rolls-Royce had, for reasons that no one understands.
Yeah,
and that's where the money
I can
gets
tell
spent.
that. Yeah, I was just inside, and there is an extra button in there, which is what's extra?
Extra. It can be anything you want it to be. They fitted
Is it customizable?
Yes. So it's a switch, just called extra, and you could have it to turn on any electrical circuits you wanted. Most of the time, people fit driving lamps and
Okay.
use it for that, so it switches a relay on for that. Not in this car. In mine, because I wanted to use it, I don't like a switch not doing anything. It turns on a subwoofer underneath the seat, so it's extra
Oh.
bass.
Extra bass. Here we go. And what is the? Is that the mirror?
Yes, there's two of those.
Oh,
one for one
that's
side, one for
unique,
the other.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's just there.
Yeah.
Wow. Very, very different. Big kind of
Lovely
glass
view.
area.
Lovely view.
Lovely glass area.
Very slim A pillars, so you can see a lot.
Yeah. Really slim. Really slim. And you can see actually the engine. There's a hole in there. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's different. It's so different in every single detail. It's just so unique.
It almost sometimes feels like it's handmade kit car a little bit. You know what I mean? It doesn't almost sometimes feel like it's totally finished. It does
Yeah.
feel like it's been made by men rather than machines, if you know what I mean. But the
Right.
heating system in this is obviously very good. It's like a furnace.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it's hot, it's really hot.
Yeah. You need that, right?
Yeah. Well, they do.
They do.
We do today.
Oh, we do. It's 1 degree. Yeah, it's cold. So unique. And this is very, it does make a lot of sense. When we try to kind of, step out, it's just, should we go for a drive?
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Here
we'll
we
take
go.
you up. Go on.
But before, let's see that bonnet closing again, which is part of the magic. Easy peasy. Before we go for this drive, one thing that I realized looking at the car today is the new sticker, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I can see in your face that you don't want to talk about that. So, when did you get it?
I fitted it early November. It's a reproduction of the original. Technically should be on cars around 81, 82. So it's a little bit too old for the car.
Oh, it looks cool, I think. It looks unique.
It's growing on me a little bit. But you know when you get used to the look of something and it changes it massively, because it does change the look of the car
I
massively.
saw it today and I thought, wow, that's different.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit to clock what was different in the car, but I think it looks cool. Live it.
Yeah, for what it costs, it's staying on a while.
When you guys are watching the video, please comment. Should he leave the stickers or take it? Very important.
I've only had one person say this should come off, but a lot of people could just be being polite, couldn't they?
Oh, the comments will be honest, trust me. Let's go for a ride. As soon as you get inside, the door handle.
It's just a handle, isn't it?
It's just magic.
Just a handle.
Look at that. And massive door. Look at how tall is that. So cool. Here we go. Seat belts. Let's go for it. Is it fast?
At the time, especially when it came out in 84, there wasn't a lot that could catch it in gear times. A couple of supercar manufacturers might have been able to match it or beat it, but most things weren't as quick as this 50 to 70. Nowadays, it's not overly heavy, 185 horsepower.
Yeah.
It's enough to keep up with modern traffic. So you're never going to be stuck. You can always overtake people. But classic cars, they age and they get slower, don't they? Because everything else gets quicker.
Yeah, that's how it
But
works.
that's the charm of them, really. It's just the fact they feel different.
It's a really big interior. Again, loads of leg room, super tall dashboard, really high, I think, and it gives a lot of leg space here. So some crazy cool solutions for a car like
It's
this.
just the view I like. It's just the windscreen view is lovely.
And what about the turbo?
By this age, it's very progressive. It's a very different turbocharger to the first cars that came out, which have quite a bit of lag. This
Yeah.
is quite smooth. They don't really get much lag at all. But its continuous development, 14-year lifespan, meant that they kept changing things all the
Which
time.
is a big thing about this car, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't have the same sort of nothing wow that the early 80s
It's
cars
very
had.
progressive.
This is much more like a modern car.
What I love, again, not common in cars of this age, is the wraparound on the windshield. So how deep the dash is.
Yeah.
Very deep dash as
Pull
well.
it away from you, it feels more spacious, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. You have another Saab as well, right?
Yeah, the Daily is a 9.3 Turbo X, which is a car built to celebrate 30 years of Saab turbocharging.
Here we go. You're a Saab turbo guy.
It matches this one. For instance, the turbo gauge here
It's the same.
is the same as in the Turbo
Oh, really?
X. It's got a modern interpretation of a 3-spoke alloy wheel. Lots of other clues back to this car. And strangely enough, this car is quite common compared with the X. The X is one of only 33 in the country on the road. That's a very rare car. So as a daily, probably doesn't make much sense.
So yeah, I was expecting this to be much more
These are in
kind of
collections.
unique
Yeah.
than that.
These are in collections and stuff. In fact, it's probably easier to get past for this than the X.
Two Saabs, different eras, different ages. Which one do you really love driving? Kind of you see it and I said, oh, that's it. Or it depends on the day, on the mood.
It's still this one. It's just a lovely place to be. You just feel everything's mechanical. The steering's heavy, the gear change is heavy, the brakes require more of a push. It's all very mechanical. I'm driving it. It's not driving me.
Yeah.
But you know, and I've been to Germany in one of these in one go, you know, without stopping. They're very comfy.
And I can tell the heating works.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging thing that you did in the car?
Bodywork,
Bodywork?
because you can't do it all yourself.
And when it was repainted?
Through lockdown, so 2020, 21.
It's a good project for that time, right?
Yeah.
It's a good kind
It
of
kept me sane.
yeah. And this is what we try to kind of celebrate at Gasoline Juice. Why cars and how cars help us on our not only moving from A to B as a tool, but kind of it's part of our soul, isn't it?
I think it's therapy. It's therapy.
It's absolutely connected to everything that we are, and this car represents that in the best way for you, I think.
And I think you get an attachment to a car based on trips you do with it and also the work you do on it. And it becomes almost like a pet, I suppose, that you become attached to it. And my other Saabs that I have, I could easily sell those. I can't easily sell this one.
Yeah.
You know, this is something.
Funny that every time I see one on the road, I think about you. It's crazy because.
Sorry about that.
So tell me a little bit about your book.
Well, that's again lockdown.
How that started?
Yeah, that's lockdown. That's bored. I've got two big Saab 900 books, the two major books. One of them made reference to a design company called International Automotive Design, who are responsible for the body kit on this car and the production of that body kit.
Yeah.
But nothing more was said about it. So I used LinkedIn to track down everyone who worked for them, and eventually found the right guy who lived in California. He gave me an hour of his time so I could interview him. I wrote the article for a classic car magazine, which was not just about this car, but British design influence in Saab over the years. And that was published. That went down very well. That magazine sold out pretty quick. With the 40th anniversary of this model last year, I wanted to finish the story, bring it to market. And I decided, well, let's write it and let's see if we can produce a book. If I only sell it to a few mates, that'll be all right.
I think it's a huge success.
Yeah, big coffee table book.
I love it.
Nice and dramatic, 80s in terms of its proportions and glossiness. and it sold very, very well. And the big version stopped last year because it was only for last year. It's now available in a smaller format. It's something 80s. There you go, that'll do.
Well, that was a proper ride. Thank you.
No problem.
So it's
Warm?
hot.
Warm?
Yeah, really warm.
Yeah.
We're talking about your book.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have it here?
There's one in the boot.
Oh, let's have a look.
Two in the boot, actually.
Oh, another cool thing. Look at the opening, the size of this opening. Oh, that's the first edition.
That's the first edition, which
The
is
one that
now
I
out of
have.
stock. Yeah,
Really good book, guys.
and that's the new one, which is available. It's
Oh,
cheaper.
I like the matte, but I like the matte cover.
that one's matte.
I think it's matte.
Matt.
Yeah, I think it looks more
There's more pages in that actually than that one, so it's pretty good value.
really good. Really good. Here you go. Matt, thank you so much.
No problem.
It's honor to have you here. You're part of this place. You're part of our story, and I feel very honored to be sharing your passion.
It's a wonderful
sharing-
place to come. It's full
sharing,
of like-minded people with all different cars and bikes. It's great.
Thanks, mate.